Good evening. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 481, and today we will be having Ben Myers on, and he's going to talk about his martial arts journey, and we're going to be talking about his charity, some great things he's doing, and he just had an event this past weekend, and we're going to be talking about that. So if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from, smash that like button, and we're just getting started. And as always, if you do have questions, put them on the right-hand side. I'll be sure to get to them. And without further ado, here he is. Hey, how are you?
Good, man. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh my God, happy to do. So I think you're doing some really interesting stuff down there, which we're going to get into. So to me, it was a no-brainer and warranted having you on and tell your story. So happy to do. And yeah, so before we get into the good stuff, what you're doing, so memory lane. What was the what was your initial martial arts training, etc.?
So I started with Rick Tucci out of the Princeton Academy of
Oh
Martial
my
Arts.
God. Yeah.
And that was because of Vunak's videos, right? But that
Black
got me.
Panther, right?
Yeah, that got me seeking out anybody who was doing JKD stuff back in the day. And I was about 5 miles from the school, and I was training for SEAL training at the time. So I would pack my sticks up and I would run doing Heaven 6, run to the school, train for 4 hours, watch all the classes that I couldn't attend because I was a newbie, and then run home at night, break into people's swimming pools and get my swim in for the evening. And then yeah, from there, joined the Navy. I got to go to SEAL training with Class 203 with Clint Emerson and a couple other guys. Finished Hell Week and then blew my hip out and got medically put out of special operations.
I never knew. That's fascinating. I never knew that you were in SEAL. Wow. So I mean, you were
I'm not a SEAL. Yeah,
I just made it through. You were trained to be a SEAL. It sounds like you were pretty far in, though, right?
No, so Hell Week is back then was week 5. Week 5 of what is 6 months? Week 5 of 24 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it's very early. It's just the big, get rid of people evolution. So everybody thinks once you make it through Hell Week, you're good to go. And for the most part, you are. I just happened to jump off an obstacle and completely tear my hip out. And then they were doing exams afterwards, and I have some kind of issue with my hips, and so it wouldn't heal. And so they told me I wasn't medically qualified for special operations anymore.
Speaking of hips, man, my left one is, yeah, that's, oh man.
Yeah, I'm rolling up on my second total replacement here soon. So
I might be hitting my second. Oh man, oh my gosh, here we are talking about freaking. Oh my god.
and when I was at Buds, Clint Emerson had a friend named Scott. I don't know if I can give his last name. I think he might still be on active, but Scott was a CQC instructor. So he taught their combat fighting course stuff. He was a Yukido Kan black belt under Everybody in the Jet, and then Machado black belt, and did Paul's stuff directly with the guys who trained at the teams, right? And he kind of, for whatever reason, I don't know why, took me under his wing and asked me to be his roommate and share rent with him at his apartment. And so we trained semi-privately, me and 3 or 4 other guys that were all special warfare candidates or guys that were in training of different functions within the Navy, kind of like the higher up type stuff. So I got to be his private student, semi-private student for about 2 years. And that was just a bunch of really fit dudes just murdering each other on the daily,
man.
right? And that was where this whole thing kind of starts to take shape, because they all wrestled and I didn't. And because when you start talking blade defense and all this stuff, like the basic 2-on-1s and everything really start to shine, right? And the whole like straight blast, guys just take your legs and dump you on your back. So that kind of got me looking into some other stuff, and I started going kind of down the straight blast gym path.
Okay.
Matt Thornton, those guys. There was a guy who taught a boxing system that they called Crazy Monkey Defense under Thornton. And at the time, they were doing like an instructor program where you could join up and train under them. They were kind of breaking away from Thornton and keeping it more boxing related. And Thornton was kind of going more in a jiu-jitsu direction.
Okay.
And Jerry Wetzel was the VP of America CM at the time. I went in 2007 to go through their training and get their instructorship. And then went to Guam, where I met a guy named Tim, whose last name I can also not give, who ran an Eskrima group on base. And he called it Candania Eskrima, or I don't remember what it's, something with a C, Candela, Candania, something like that. And they were guys just full into the Filipino stuff. We suited up and we'd whack on each other with sticks and do tire days where we'd do thousands of reps hitting a tire. And that's where I kind of got more in the Filipino stuff and started to blend it with the boxing. And kind of come in full circle as I got out of the Navy. I started talking to my wife about coming down here to Ecuador because she has a family property down here.
Okay.
And we originally came down to kind of help build out the property. And then I got involved with a home that housed trafficked kids called Casa Gabriel here through a friend. And they started training with me in the mornings, doing just calisthenics and boxing, and they loved it. And for me, this light bulb came on, and I thought, like, why not do something with this, right? Like, why not build something out that helps these kids? Because it just, they're street kids. They're kids that came up hard and they got involved in sex trafficking for various reasons. And so I started calling up and messaging everybody that I knew in the martial arts. I reached out to everybody, bro. And Rich Dimitri of what was Senshido and is now, Pure and Applied Self-Defense. He volunteered his time, came down here with his girlfriend at the time.
No kidding. Wow.
And lived in an apartment that I set him up in, and we spent like 10 hours a day together for about 10 days, just running through all.
He just came down on his own and just like.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible guy, right? And he deals with all the psychology and de-escalation and concept-driven teaching better than anybody else. And then I rang Jerry up and I was like, hey, Jerry, these kids love boxing and, your boxing stuff, because he had kind of broken off a CM and started doing Red Zone, where he focuses on like true dirty boxing, like not the Filipino stuff, but like real boxing based dirty boxing. So you have like counter grappling. And then he has in the Red Zone curriculum, there's the Red Zone knife defense, which was, he was doing full resistance knife defense back in 2002 or 2003.
Same. When I first came out with, where is it? But yeah, I was the same year.
Yeah. So you guys were probably the only two guys talking about like, hey, this tappy stuff doesn't work. And
I was getting killed. I was freaking getting killed by grapplers.
Right. So now the whole circle connects back to the wrestlers during the SEAL training days, and it comes forward. And Jerry's curriculum is top notch. The tier 1 guys are all running it now. A whole bunch of law enforcement organizations are running the red zone program for knife defense and what he calls adaptive striking, which is like, it's like a boxing base with, all the things you need to account for, like having kit on your waist and making sure people don't get your tools, and then anti-grappling so you don't get dumped, taken down. And then there's, of course, a ground portion that goes into, stuff like submissions and cuffing and all that kind of stuff. And so those 2 systems are kind of the base. Red Zone and Rich's Pure and Applied Self-Defense are kind of the base for the program that I created down here, which we're going to talk about in a second. But that's like the Reader's Digest version.
No, that's right. So going back to so you lived in New York at the time, or
New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah. I lived in Princeton. Like I lived 5 miles from his academy.
Okay, because in there, and so what do you think? Like I've heard, mixed things. Subsequently, I guess he sold the school. He no longer owns it. And there, so you're going back to like what, mid 2000s or so?
No, it was 93.
Oh my God, 93. Oh, way back. Oh
yeah,
gosh. Okay.
Yeah. I was there for like 6 months in 93, like 4 or 5 hours a day, every day.
Yeah. So you were getting what? The Thai boxing, JKD, FMA, C-Lot, the whole nine. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. So there was beginner Thai boxing class, there was the beginner JKD class, I think the C-Lot class, you if you were new, you had to do like a probationary period, if I remember correctly.
He was doing? Okay.
He eventually liked me and let me get in on some of the C-Lot stuff, and then the Filipino, the basic Filipino stuff.
Right.
And that was kind of my first introduction to everything. He's a great teacher. He's just from New Jersey, and he doesn't take any crap from anybody. So there's some people that he rubs the wrong way because he'll just tell you, like, you'll be like, can I do this? No. Right. Like he's just kind of blunt and to the point. Some people don't like that. I'm fine with it. That's my people. So I was okay.
I heard mixed things. Yeah. I never met him. I do regret there was one time I was going to go down there when he brought, PJ Edgar, the late great PJ Edgar, in, and it just didn't happen. But I heard mixed things, and but certainly didn't let that steer me as to yay or nay what I felt about him. Never met the man, so I was gonna just listen to what people said.
Yeah. So I was there when he brought Hartzell in, like the summer of '93, and for me, it was the right thing at the time, right? I needed a guy who was like real, no fluff, no.
He was definitely that. He used to go to Ron's in Connecticut. I mean, Hartzell was definitely real. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Rick was just very like cut and dry, and you put the information out, and if he got mad, you were going to do 1,000 angle ones, and it didn't matter if there's like blood dripping off your hand. And for me at the time, that was what I needed, right? Like I needed somebody who was just going to give it to me, in the least gentle way possible, because that was where my head was at. So
yeah. No.
It was it was a great foundation, right? Because he's one of a handful of guys that's done the whole
Well, back then, he had it. Like you're talking 93. So if you were to look at 93, like who were Dan Asano's full instructors per se, right?
Yeah.
It was nowhere like today. So yeah, he was one of the guys that had kind of the whole gambit,
Yeah, he was one of the original guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so from there, okay, you explain what you did from there. But you must have been, so obviously you got a heavy dose of the Asano blend when you were there.
Sure. And then also at SEAL training, that was very kind of Inosanto blend. He did mix some of the Yukito-kan, stuff. And of course, at that point, because it's the early 90s, the UFC's blowing up. And so we did some jujitsu, and we had a guy train up and win the first tournament they had there in San Diego. One of our guys went. So it was, the beginning of MMA, right? That was the beginning when MMA was kind of like just gaining traction, and he being a SEAL was one of the first guys to get in there with the Machados and go through the whole curriculum and get his black belt and do the thing, right? So he just was, I guess it was fortunate for us. I don't know how he felt about it, but we were, we're starstruck. He's a Navy SEAL. He's an operator. He's done all this stuff, and he's used all this stuff for real. And we're like, oh.
I mean, the Navy SEALs is the equivalent to like the samurai back in the day. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like
right. And so he would kind of just give us. We would do the same basic. The basic curriculum that Paul did with the teams, we would just run it over and over and over and over and over again, and with no gloves, and people's teeth are getting folded back, and because we're just a bunch of angry young men, and
you can tolerate or take that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, when you're young and your body can take that kind of stuff. It was great at the time. That was what I needed, right?
But then, okay, so how did Guam come for the Navy?
Yeah. So I met my wife through church, and we met in Virginia Beach, and then from Virginia Beach went to a naval station, an air station called Patuxent River, Maryland. I was working at that point, because my hip was bad, I was working as a medical laboratory scientist. And from there, they were offering some little bonuses and stuff for people going to places where they call it like a hot fill billet. And Guam was one of those places that nobody wanted to go to because nobody knew what it was.
Okay.
And we jumped at the chance. Like, we were super psyched. So the Navy shipped us out there, and we were out there for a couple of years, and Tim was my neighbor. And one day I saw him going out of the house with sticks, and I was like, hey, stick guy, like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I do a little group, whatever. And I was like, so can I join up? And he's like, yeah, I guess so, if you want to. And then, of course, I'm annoying. He's my neighbor, so I'm just walking over and knocking on his door.
Oh, my God.
I have a question about stick stuff. And he'd come to the door in his underwear and be like, come on in, man. And we just sit around and talk stick and knife stuff. So it was a good group of guys. There was a couple karate black belts out there that were blending the stick stuff in, and we all just kind of palled around and whacked each other with the sticks.
Guam, I mean, I've heard nothing. I mean, it couldn't have been that bad out there, right? I mean,
it's better than Hawaii. I'd take Guam over Hawaii 10 times out of 10.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So the island, it's got the same vibe, the same, like, I love this. So really the charity idea goes all the way back to Guam, because I started working with some kids on Guam, and just doing basic boxing stuff with them. And they were like in a really rough neighborhood, this group of Samoan kids. And Guam is one of those places like Hawaii where guys still fight to settle things, right? Like, it's just like, I got a problem with you. We're going to meet in this field, and we're just going to we're going to knuckle up, and whoever makes it, makes it. So they took to it, and that planted a seed for me that then kind of blossomed into this thing that happened here. But Guam is like Hawaii in that sense, right? It's like an island. It's got the whole island mentality, the whole fight mentality, all the things that make island people fantastic. I love those guys. I would go back there in a heartbeat. But It's one island, so it's smaller than Hawaii, and
Okay.
it's maybe 30 miles long, the whole island. And the entire island has a reef around it. So the ocean around the island for about 400 yards out is about 4 feet deep. So
Okay.
it's just like a big saltwater swimming pool, right? And at the time, I would go to the lane where they would bring the submarines in, and I would swim a mile in the ocean, and then get with the kids at night, and we'd be banging it out, and then I'd be doing sticks on the weekends, and it was fantastic, man. Guam is, bro. But part of my heart is still in Guam. Like I really, it's just so expensive out there, dude.
Yeah, because I mean everything's got to be imported in. So what did I guess the mainland? I get what are so are they Samoans? Is that what
So
Guam?
so Guam is right by the Philippines,
That's right.
basically.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah, we actually hopped over to Cebu. That's where I was going to retire at. The plan was to retire in the Philippines and study Filipino stuff full time out there in Cebu. We
Mm.
went over and we met everybody from the church, the branch of our church that was there. When we island hopped for a couple weeks, me, my wife, and my daughter. But my son had a falling out with my ex-wife, and she just kicked him out of the house and put him on a plane and sent him to us. And then when the plane landed and he got off the plane, the day he arrived, she called me and she's like, now you legally can't leave the country with our kid. And so I had set up all these retirement plans, and they just got kiboshed.
Oh.
And I had 6 months until I got off active duty and had to kind of like scramble to kind of figure things out. But the plan at that time in the Guam phase was to just go to the Philippines and do FMA full time.
Yeah. Right. Oh boy. So you leave Guam. So you're able to get out of Guam.
Yep.
And where was the next stop after Guam?
Vegas, Fight City, man. Yeah. So we went to Vegas. I retired to Vegas.
How'd you go to an island to a freaking zoo?
That's a good question. So they brought a preacher out from Vegas to come and do like a lesson at the Guam church.
Okay.
And I met him and we just hit it off, and he's like, hey, so you should come to Vegas. And I was like, all right, cool. Because we didn't have any other plans. So it seemed like as good an idea as anything else. And we went back to Vegas, and I worked for the Air Force for a couple years, and I trained a couple of the Air Force guys. The system is taking shape. At that point, I was focused on a lot of like power punching and Jeff Thompson's fence work and some other things. And I got to work with this one kid, last name Perry. He was like one of those like gym rat dudes, like 4% body fat all the time, Abercrombie and Fitch looking kid. And at the time I was like 50 pounds overweight, fat old guy with a beard. And I would go off and do my punching by myself on lunch, taking my lunch break and go into the physical therapy department and do my punching and then come back to work. One day he's like, what are you doing on lunch? And he's like, you come back all sweaty all the time. And I was like, I go over there and I punch. And he's like, what do you mean you go and punch? And I was like, well, why don't you come join me? I'll show you. And I brought him out, and like we went in the physical therapy department, and we just for about a year and a half, every single day, we were just doing power hitting exercises and all this stuff. It was a good time. And then from there, we went to Ecuador the first time. And the idea for the charity came up. And then we came back. There was like a implosion at the school where we were working. It was like a really crazy situation. So we came back to Florida, where my wife's mother is from. And I went through bodyguard training, and I worked for some billionaire guy there who I had to sign an NDA. Like, I'm not allowed to say his name.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a guy who he was one of Mark Cuban's like original business associates. and
Okay.
he has a property there. I was part of his property security team for a couple of years, and then we kind of everything got dicey with the economy in the States, back right after COVID, and we kind of looked at each other and we're like, this is dumb. Like, why are we sitting here struggling to make ends meet? Because bodyguard work doesn't pay what you think it pays, right? And we moved back to Ecuador to like really dig in and start the charity.
So Ecuador. So when you went down there, like, so who knew who down there? I guess. Like, what? How did Ecuador come up?
So Ecuador is just my wife's family, right? That's
Okay.
they're from here originally. So she's the first generation American, right?
Okay.
So we, like I said, we came down here the first time to work on the ranch, and then we came down the second time to work on the ranch and work on the charity. And kind of we were going to use the ranch property for the charity, but there's a lot of cartel stuff going on here, and it turns
Ecuador. That
out.
surprises me. I would have never guessed Ecuador. Colombia. I
Well,
mean, yeah. I mean,
so the port is right here. It's because of the port, right?
okay.
So Guayaquil, the port is like I forget. It's up there, one of the largest ports in the world, and they have all these major shipping lanes that go from the port to the States.
Gotcha.
So it gives the cartel another way to jump off and get stuff up into the States.
Okay.
Because we're literally next to Colombia, right? So there's that crossover of merchandise, and then the Mexican cartel came down here too. And so there's those two cartels
Wow. Because
competing.
man, I just never suspect. I mean, obviously we hear about El Salvador, Colombia, Honduras, but it was always like Chile and Ecuador were always kind of like you know, they were like the better places, quote
Yeah,
unquote.
it took one bad president, dude. Like this. So the guy that was in presidency the first time we were here is the guy who ruined everything. Basically, he legalized like even hard drugs, like to where you could have a certain amount on you. It wasn't legal, like you could go pick it up at the drugstore, but like you could
Right.
have a certain amount of heroin on you and it would be okay. And he opened the doors to the cartels coming in because they threw a bunch of money at him. And so that was when the whole country kind of took a
Oh,
bump.
that's too bad.
Yeah, it used to be really, really chill, but
I've heard
now it's
I know. We always up here. They were just associated with when you heard Ecuador. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
wow, that's
Yeah,
too
now it's
bad.
wild. Like now you can open the window and you can hear the gunshots across the waterway is this place called Duran, which is like the worst area in the whole country. And we can open our windows up. There's like explosions and automatic
Really?
weapon fire. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So you're far enough away, though. I mean, like, are you gated community? Or are you?
Yeah, so where we stay is considered the safest community in
Oh,
in
good.
in this in
Okay.
this area. It's like a bunch of luxury, condo gated thing. So, but if you look across the Guayaquil River, which is over here to my right, you can see Duran, the worst area in the country. So.
Wow, I just hear the fact that you're in guns. So, all right, so you're down there. You went down there like around COVID, or and so your system versus and the charity. So when you got down there, are you kind of just fine tuning your system, getting it off the map, or?
So I came down here, and originally I didn't want to have a system, bro. I wanted to just kind of be like an ambassador and bring people in and have them train everybody, right? I don't know if you've ever tried to do strategic partnerships in the martial arts.
No, that's something I have not attempted yet.
It's a train wreck, bro. Because everybody wants to be the train driver. No one wants to be the passenger, right? So I brought originally the idea was to call it guerrilla, like guerrilla warfare, CLOT. And I brought a CLOT guy in who shall remain nameless. I had already designed the curriculum, and I was like, this is what I want. This is how I want the movements to work. This is going to be the name. He was recommended to me by a mutual friend. Not a bad guy, just couldn't realize the vision, right? Like he started taking it in a different direction. And because he was the CLOT guy, like he claimed the system. And that I cut him out of the system because the vision for the charity has changed. Originally, it was just going to be me bringing different people down and having them train. And then the more I talk to the kids, the more I realize like what they want is to psychologically recover. Most of these kids could probably beat me up, right? Like they live on the streets, they fight all the time.
Okay.
And so this idea of like martial arts, instead of martial arts to fight with, martial arts as like a therapeutic tool started to kind of take shape. And so I got micro expression certified, and I started working with people like Rich, who really focus on the psychology piece and trauma recovery. He does a whole thing on trauma sensitive training because that was what they needed, right? Like as I'm dialoguing with these kids and talking to different people that are already doing anti-trafficking work, it's not like the movies, dude. It's not, Cry Freedom or whatever the heck that movie was called, where people are like going in with guns and That's a very teeny tiny
aspect of it is what you're saying.
Yeah. Most of these kids they get trafficked by their own family. Right? They get trafficked to pay bills.
I remember you were telling me that, and I can't wrap my freaking head around that. I just, to me, I don't understand it.
Yeah. And so I started bringing people in to fill the gaps because you're information gathering, right? You have one vision and then you get information and the kids are like, well, I just want to get a job. So there's a vocational rehabilitation aspect to it now. There's all this psychology built into it now. And we did have a girl who I basically adopted. She's the first person to fully go through everything.
Oh, okay.
And we were able to partner with this really elite high school in the States, random, right? I've been working with her. She came into the gym the first time we were down here and said she wanted to join the Marine Corps, right? And she had heard I had a military background and I wanted to, she wanted me to train her, right? I didn't know her from anybody. And I kind of like my methodology when I'm working, especially physically with kids, is I just murder them. Like I just put them through the hardest possible workouts. And if they hang around, then they earn my respect.
They're vested, right?
Yeah. So I was like, sure. And I like handed her a 50-pound backpack and I was like, just go run around the soccer field. And I turned back to like working out with the boys and we were doing push-ups and, the deck of cards workouts together or whatever. And I assumed she wasn't going to come back. Because she's like this tall, right? She's like this itty bitty chick.
Yeah.
And then she came back the next day and it was like, okay, take the 50-pound backpack and this time go run up and down the stairs, right?
Oh, geez.
I'm back to my workout and she came back the next day and I just kept hammering this girl to death. And then after a couple months, we start working out together because she's worked up to that level where she can hang with everybody. And one of the teachers pulls me aside and she goes, the background on that girl, right? And I said, no, not really. And basically she spent her childhood chained to a bed.
Oh my God.
Through a series of unfortunate events, her family died they were hit by a truck coming back from a party at Christmas, and she's the only one who lived through the accident. And then one of her family members took her and chained her to a bed during the night, and during the day would make her go out and, you know, sell bubble gum or do whatever to make ends meet for the family. And that's how most trafficking happens, right?
Okay.
So I get to know her, and we're training together. And one day I go to church, and some random guy that we've never seen shows up from the States. And he's from this elite school, and his job is he goes to third world countries. It's a girls' school. It's an all girls school, and finds girls who are like disadvantaged and brings them back to do, when they graduate their high school in whatever country they come from, to do a gap year, so that which is like an extra year of high school, so that they can graduate from this high school, this elite high school on paper, and then go on to colleges in the United States. So she graduates from this elite high school, and now she's getting her master's degree. And, you know, we're trying to duplicate. Wow. Yeah, we're trying to duplicate that. Like that's the vision.
So I just want to back up a bit. I mean, because I want to get definitely more into this. Matter of fact, I'm in the process of bringing up your pics of your event. But before we get into all that, you did some Piper training. We didn't.
Yeah.
And
let's delve into that.
And the hot word for this month is Piper. No. So you did with Lloyd, right?
I did, yeah. In the process, you know, I mean, like you're from the concepts background, right? So the idea,
correct, yeah.
The idea is to blend, right? There's no one system that stands alone. And the goal was to build this program that was like a blended program.
Gotcha.
That allowed me to give the kids a little bit of weapons and a little bit of grappling, a little bit of boxing, and then like some therapeutic qigong type stuff. So if you think of like all of martial arts as like a Venn diagram, right? Like you got the sports circle, and you got the self-defense circle, and you got the traditional martial arts circle, and then the military circle, and they all kind of, there's a little bit in the middle where they overlap, right?
Okay.
Get that little bit in the middle to where they get a functional self-defense platform. They get some therapeutic, you know, breathing and, you know, focus your chi if you believe in that stuff, like a weapons platform. And they test it doing sparring and competition type martial arts stuff, because it's the only way to test stuff, right? And so I reached out to Lloyd because Piper kept coming up as like the most no nonsense knife thing, right? Like the thing that was like.
How did you find about him? Like him in particular, I guess.
I'm a dork, bro. I do like I just do like tons of research. I'm always researching.
I'm gonna find out.
Yeah. So like I started, you know, it was phases. At first it was looking at the psych stuff, and Rich came down and I did a humongous deep dive into all the psych stuff. And then it was micro expressions and getting that certification so that they can read facial expressions and body language. And I did a big deep dive into that. And then it was talking with Jerry and bringing the boxing stuff in and the MMA base and all that. And then it was looking at weapons, but I didn't want to just rehash all the FMA stuff, right? Because the FMA stuff was already part of PFS, and I was already a PFS guy, and I didn't feel like I needed to redo FMA stuff. And Piper kept coming up as the system for no nonsense knife stuff. And so I started like scouring the internet and just everything that was Piper related, emailing people and, hey, I'm trying to build an anti-trafficking program. You know, maybe you'd be interested in helping. And I reached, I don't remember who it was, Nigel or the other guy, the big white dude. What's his name?
Conrad?
On the first video with Lloyd.
Oh, Peterman.
That's it. So I reached him.
And do you have his information? No,
I do, yeah. I can dig it up. I think I have it somewhere.
no
But
rush.
I
When
reached.
you can, if you could forward to me, I've been dying to reach out to him. But when
Sure,
you
yeah.
can,
So I reached him and he was like, listen, the guy, I'm just a guy. He's like, the guy you need to talk to is Lloyd. And he told me to reach out to Lloyd. And then I reached
Okay.
out to Lloyd. And Lloyd and I started doing privates through WhatsApp. He was like, yeah, I'll help, sure. Because he's a super amiable guy, and we started doing privates through WhatsApp.
That's interesting. And then unfortunately, disappeared, I'm guessing.
He vanished into thin air, as you know, right? Because he did the same thing to you. He just kind of.
But you know what? Let's back up. What did you really appreciate about his land? I mean, well, not just his lands, but Piper overall. I guess let's take it from there.
So he's a fantastic teacher. He knows everything about the African systems, right? Which go like super well together with the boxing stuff, because there's so much influence from Africa to America with the boxing, which is what got me into 52, which was the last episode you had me in on, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And one second. Did you? Okay. All right. Anyway, hopefully you don't hear my daughter frying hamburgers in the background.
No worries.
Good.
We're kid
Awesome.
friendly, pet friendly. Yeah, so no worries.
Awesome. Cool. So he knows everything about all that, the African, the trip wire, the stick, the knife, and he's just a great articulate guy, right?
Very intelligent. No, Lloyd is, yeah.
And so for me, again, back to the whole Venn diagram, it's like where does everything overlap, right? Where do the weapons overlap with the boxing, overlap with the therapeutics, overlap with the military stuff? Because if you can focus there, right, they can get benefit in every area. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's interesting that you went to there because, most people doing what you're doing, I think would have gravitated towards FMA. I think it's just really neat that you just said, you know what, I'm going to look and see what's going on over here. You know what I mean?
I think because I had done a little bit of FMA with Rick and with Paul's people, it didn't have the allure for me that it does for some people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like between the time on Guam and between the other stuff, I felt pretty good. And I'm not I look at martial arts real differently than everybody else. When I was on Guam and we were stick sparring, I basically boxed with the stick, and I did okay. And so that made me that was what started me going back towards boxing, because I didn't, all the angle 1s and angle 2s and angle 7s and angle 12s and all this stuff. It was like, I did a lot of 1s and 2s, a lot. Right. And everything else it seemed like, why is this even there? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then when again, doing the research into weapon stuff, Piper kept coming up. And when I looked at it, the idea of something reverse grip that you can kind of hide like a pencil. Lloyd does that thing where you like dive forward like this behind the knife, or the stabby thing, whatever you have in your hand, pen, pencil, whatever. Hiding it, ambush-based attacks for the demographic that I'm trying to work with, right? People that are not going to be knife fighting in the streets.
Yeah, right. Dueling, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have to defend themselves. It made more sense, right?
No, I totally agree with you. I just think it's interesting that you came to that conclusion. I totally agree with your selection. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was
You
the
know,
thought process, right? It was like, that makes sense. Ambush
yeah.
based. Yeah. Stabby, stabby. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um,
So about like, well, how long was the duration you worked with them? A couple months?
no, I would say off and on for about a year.
Oh, was it that
Um,
long? Okay. All right.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be, we do an hour and then we go a month and we do an hour and we'd go 2 months and we do an hour. So
Okay.
it's not like a huge amount of work in that time period, but we were working pretty steadily for about a year.
So obviously you got a good gist of the basics and everything he was in me showing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm a nerd, right? So I went out and I bought everything associated
With Piper. Yeah.
with Piper. I have all the videos and I ran through all the video material and then I started to blend it with the boxing, and a lot of his time with me was like me asking him questions about how to blend it with boxing and going, hey, what do you think about
Yeah.
this? What if we took this idea from Piper and we added a bob and weave into it and we did this, and and he was a sounding board. We did
Yeah.
a little bit of training in Piper, but a lot of it was him helping me shape the curriculum,
Oh,
right?
you okay? I see where you're going with it. Okay, yeah, and I could definitely see where he would be most beneficial in that area. As Piper has a big component of boxing in it, so yeah, I could definitely
Yeah.
see how he was helping you in that. Okay,
Yeah, so
that
he was
totally makes sense.
literally he was helping me build the weapons component of the system, right?
Got it. Nice, nice. Okay, so now we're fast forward. You're down there. You're putting this together. What made you get, I guess, involved with the student? I mean, or the children? Like, is your charity? It's centered around the children. So is that it's all kind of
It was
intermingled?
kind of honestly, man, it was accidental. I mean, more than anything, it was just like I was working out with a guy at the time who was the head of the organization that runs the homes that house the kids. He would
Okay.
come to the gym. I was the athletic trainer at the high school. And he started coming to the gym and we hit it off, talking about athletic training. And he asked me to do a program for him to get his bench press up over 500 or whatever it was that he was doing, because he's a freak of nature, right? Um, and we started talking one day and he's like, hey, you like doing all this stuff. I oversee this home. What do you think about working with the kids? And I was like, sure,
Okay.
why not? And then from there, it was just like, I loved it, dude. I loved working with these kids because I had a kind of a tragic childhood, not that tragic, but I had my mom was dealing drugs and I was the only white kid in an all black neighborhood and just got beat up all the time. And boxing kind of saved me,
I
right?
remember that story you were telling me. You're getting, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's not nice. It's not
No,
nice,
we
but
can, we can, we can retell it if you want, but, um,
you're running, you're just trying to run.
just trying to survive, bro. Just a little ginger kid, just trying to survive. And so, I felt like martial arts saved my life in a lot of ways.
Sure, okay.
And I guess I should tell the story. So being a little ginger kid in an all black neighborhood in New Jersey, where I literally like grew up with bullets lodged in my closet, it was not a good place to be. And my mom's like dealing hash out of the house where we live. Um, I would get chased around by this kid. There was one kid in particular, and he had like a group of kids with him, and it was me and my two girl cousins, and they would like chase us and throw rocks at us and beat us up every chance they got. And then one summer, because I would go back for the summer to be with my mom in New Jersey, and then go back for the school year to be with my dad in California, where my dad lived. One summer, I go back, and my neighbor is training boxing in the parking lot with some
Mm.
guy, some random bald white guy, right? Who knew? It was a foretelling of things to come.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who knew?
This random bald white dude is teaching this, skinny black kid that lives next door to me how to box. And like me, being the person that I am, I was just like, I like kind of wandered out there and was like staring at him training. And then I was like, hey, you think I could train too? And he was like, yeah, sure, man. Why not? So he starts teaching us to box, but we like out of mutual respect for each other, we don't want to fight each other. Right.
Right.
So we take his 2 sets of gloves and we just stood in my front yard, and everybody who came down the street would be like, hey, you want to box? And of course, they're kids. We have boxing gloves. They're like, yeah, sure. Because everybody thinks they're tough because it's the hood. Right.
Right.
So we would just take turns beating everybody up. I would take one kid. He would take the next kid. I would take one kid. He would take the next kid. And pretty soon we just beat the whole neighborhood up.
And then the whole neighborhood started to leave you alone.
Yeah. And people just stopped coming down our block at all. Like it was a ghost town. And so that was kind of like the beginning of the love for boxing and the beginning of, again, I mean, you could probably trace the idea for the charity all the way back to that moment, right? Yeah. Because that saved me, dude. Like that really showed me the value of martial arts and sport martial arts specifically, and being able to fight and all that stuff. So fast forward here, now one of the kids in the charity, Dario, was an all Army boxing on the team, the boxing team here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In Ecuador. And so he was just like a assassin, bro, tearing my guts to pieces through the pad. Like I'm pooping blood at night, like ripping my body up, right? And the other kids, of course, because he's a savage, want to be like him. So everybody wants to do boxing, and like we're all doing, calisthenics workouts, rolling dice for push-ups and doing deck of cards together or whatever the workout is for the day. And it just took shape from there, man. It was like, my friend going, hey, do you want to do this? And me going, yeah. And then me going, man, like I really like making a difference. And this hits for me, probably going all the way back to the hood and being a little ginger punching bag.
Yeah, you probably saw some parallel of these kids and you wanted to make a difference because somebody gave you an opportunity, made a difference in your life, and kind of repaying back to society, if you will. I mean, yeah, I think it's a great story. And so, okay, you're getting this going. So you're still there, right? I mean, in this facility, correct?
Well, yeah. So I was there. We're kicking it off, and then there was like a whole bunch of drama that took place at the school where we were working, and we just decided it was a super toxic environment.
Oh,
and we left to go back to the States, and then I did the bodyguard stint, and then we came back down.
And right, okay, like after COVID, okay, and you're back.
Yeah.
And
the bodyguard thing, bro, was as much, I mean, it was as much like it was a job that I wanted to do for a while because I had like this romantic idea of what being a bodyguard would be like. And I just happened to be, when we went back to the States, that ESS, the school that I went through, was like literally a half a mile from my house where we were staying. And I couldn't get a job with my master's in business. I don't know why, but I couldn't have a master's in business and I couldn't get a job to save my life. I was applying for everything. And so I just said to my wife, like, I've always thought about being a bodyguard. Like, what do you think? And she's like, sure, why not? And I used the last of my GI Bill to go through ESS and get my, like, they have like a month-long 40-hour work week. You know, you do taser and pepper spray and baton and like driving and all the, you know, all the stuff. And then started working for them. And it was cool. I got my bodyguard, you know, I got to try it out. It's a terrible job, terrible mission profile. Like, who wants to be in a job where you just are reactive all the time? Awful.
Yeah.
Right? You're never on the front foot. Never.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's short-lived. You go back down to Ecuador.
Yeah. Back down to Ecuador. And then really, really dig in with the charity and start trying to like build it up. And the ranch was going to be cool, but then they found 250 kilos of cocaine from the cartel at the back of the ranch. So the ranch is no longer cool.
No longer. That became no longer.
So the ranch is no longer a spot where
Oh
we're going to
my
run a charity for
God.
children. And we've kind of hopped around. We were living in one of the more dangerous areas for a while, and it just got to be too stressful for my wife and kid. So we moved here, and now we're like hood adjacent, right? Like this area is really nice. That way up there is like one of the second worst area. Across the river is the first worst area, and then back that way behind me is like the third worst area. So we're surrounded by the worst areas in the country. There's kids that come from this area behind me, the third worst area. My wife ran into them walking the dogs in the morning. These kids don't have 2 pennies to rub together, but they run here. They run 2 miles from their house, just like I used to do with Rick, to come train, and they train every day now.
So
Right?
they're
They
coming
go
from
up.
there to come. Wow. So,
Yeah,
how many kids you training? How many kids?
I was a handful of kids. It's anywhere between 3 and 6.
But I
Um,
mean, okay, but they're underprivileged, obviously, not the best of circumstances, not coming from great homes,
right.
just all bad, unfortunately. And so you're obviously helping them out, obviously being a positive influence in their life, or maybe perhaps the only positive aspect in their life.
It's a good
Unfortunately,
chance. It's
how
a good
sad that
chance.
is. Yeah, which is just sad. So, all right. So you're giving them your program then, right?
Yeah. So the idea now, the program is complete, right? It's got some of every part of the Venn diagram, the military stuff from when I was at SEAL training, the sports based stuff from Jerry, the psychology stuff and all the riches and Piper for weapons. And, it's got a little bit of everything in there. So the business model, if you will, is the charity is registered through Florida. I got the merch on. It's called Pelea Callejera, which means street fight, right?
Okay.
And the idea is to use this program. If anybody's interested, this is my pitch. Pay attention, take notes. And you want to run through the program and maybe institute it in your school, you call me, I come train. Whatever you pay me to train is a donation to the charity. I don't keep any of it, right?
Right.
So take that, whatever that is, we agree on whatever the price is for however many hours of training, put that into the charity bank account. And then I also, in your name, so you bring me in to train, in your name, I donate however many hours you bring me in to train to some kind of group of disadvantaged kids. So it's a 1-for-1 swap with training,
Wow.
and then also all the money goes into the charity. Because I'm like you, bro. I have my own job. I make my money doing other stuff. So
That's incredible what you're doing. That is just, yeah. God bless you. I mean, you are actually helping people. You're doing it on time, and you're basically they bring you in, and then you're taking that and redonating it and repurposing it for the better
right.
of underprivileged kids and that. So, wow. That's and you just had okay. So you gave me a little like your program. They're getting a little of this. Rich Dimitri. They're getting some military. That system called Piper.
Yeah,
I'm
some knife system called
I'm not
Piper.
really
I don't know.
familiar. I've heard about it. I'm not really familiar. And then obviously hands, right? Some
Right.
clinch, some basic grappling.
Yeah. So Red Zone, Jerry Welzel's curriculum, the guy who started YouTube probably were the two guys doing resistance knife defense back in 2000 or
That's a
whatever,
long time ago.
2003, right? Probably the OGs of the resistance knife training. His Red Zone curriculum started then, and then he has Red Zone adaptive striking, which is a boxing and wrestling jiu-jitsu, like MMA base
Yeah.
combatives program, right? Like it's MMA tooled with boxing centric for military and police and self-defense. And again, that all of that with Rich's psychology stuff, right? Because we see the world through our trauma, right? I mean, these kids, they don't have the same worldview as you and I do, right?
Oh no, I'm sure they don't.
If you can only see what you see in the world is a reflection of yourself, right? And all of our mirrors that are reflecting ourselves back to us, the world back to us, are dirty with our trauma, right? So the program is made to help them clean that up, but in a way that they don't even realize that it's happening, right? So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I appreciate that.
I just catch you up on here, but I'm listening though. Go ahead.
So there's things that consistently get results. High repetition training consistently gets results. Teaching the kids about breath work consistently gets results. Focusing on the trauma consistently gets results. So the program is built around that, but in like the most kind of like backdoor way possible. We're just talking about it as we go, and they don't even realize half the time that they're being, I have a solution focused coaching master's certificate. So we do a lot of like goal setting and coaching while they're training, right? So they just feel like they're training, but it's helping them kind of.
And the other thing too is to mention to the folks that are watching or will be watching when it's on YouTube is a lot of the whole aspect of the abductions. Like what's going on down there, right? I mean, again, how it's mostly people they know, which is just sickening.
Yeah. Well, it's not. So I'm probably more at risk for getting abducted down here than they are. It's usually just, Uncle Bob goes, "Hey, we have bills to pay. You're a good looking kid, get to work."
Oh my God.
And it takes shape from there because you got, what are you going to, you can sell bubble gum in the street or like sunshades for the car windows or fruit or whatever, or you can make $100 an hour in the sex trade, right?
Jesus.
So 1 hour of work in the sex trade, 3 hours of work in the sex trade is a living wage. $300 a month is a living wage down here. So you work 3 hours in the sex trade
down there. Wow.
So there's a lot of pressure. There's financial pressure, right, for them to do this stuff, and it's survival, right? So a lot of the psychology and work is about retooling their worldview, right? Helping them understand that there's better ways to get things done, and hopefully get them into some kind of pipeline like we did with the Ale, the girl that we rescued before, and get them into the States and get them into college and, all that kind of stuff.
So is that your goal? Like the ones who are going to come, they're committed, they're doing it. Is your goal to get them adopted to the States? Is that like the end goal?
I would like to, right? I mean, the end goal is to facilitate whatever they need. And ideally, if I can get enough because each school is going to require a strategic partnership, right?
Okay.
And like that guy that I met, I'm still friends with him. They do one girl a year. So do the math on that, right? That means I can do that for one girl a year. So I have to go build more strategic relationships like that with other schools, schools for boys and other schools and other like vocational training programs, right? So whatever they need. The goal is mostly to try to have partnerships with people who are doing the work, right? I can't do it all myself.
Yeah, no, of course not. So you had this great event last weekend. Let's hear about it.
So this is the merch, the sweatshirts from the first seminar. My kind of like right-hand guy down here, Matt,
Mm.
Just starts going around and beating the bushes. A lot of the people that are interested in this kind of work are missionaries, right? There's not a lot of like, believe it or not, there's not a lot of atheists or Satanists down here helping the children. So you get a lot of like, Christian people coming in from the United States, administrating these homes and donating money. And so this past weekend, Matt went to one of the major centers where they do all this community outreach and they give out food. And he just asked the staff members, because they're at risk, right? The security on these homes where they keep the kids, it's like several gates, and you gotta like go, buzz in, and they need to know you, or you have to make an appointment, because like once you have a cash cow in the shape of one of these kids, if they get pulled out of that business, people try to pull them down, right? And sorry.
Oh, no worries.
We try to track those kids down and re-force them into the business again. So there has to be a humongous amount of security, and any of the staff is at risk all the time. They're working with drug addicts, they're working with street kids. So he pulled everybody in this first cadre of people that went through the program is missionary staff. So
staff.
So that was that they came together this past weekend, and they went through the entire 10-hour training program, because it's made to be run in 10 hours.
There's a group pack right there.
Yeah. So there's a little guy in the middle there. He was getting beat up by his dad. The girl in the burgundy top got robbed at knife point like 4 times. The big skinny tall guy at the back got robbed and beat up a couple weeks ago. They've all been victimized. They're all trying to learn how to protect themselves, and they're all trying to serve. They're all in some way serving. So the funny thing is, bro, this will kind of like, as you get to know these people, right? Like Knife Defense, for example, the girl in the burgundy on my right, she's wearing like burgundy top and burgundy pants.
Yeah.
She's been mugged multiple times at knife point, right? And so me and you, Knife Defense guys, were like, oh my gosh, you need to know knife defense. But the muggers don't do anything. They come to the knife is for intimidation, right?
Yeah, right. If they want it, right, they're using it as a means to get what they want, right? They have no potential. Yeah, I got you.
Right. So she came to me during the seminar, and she's like, well, this happened to me. These 4 guys came out of this car, and almost the same exact situation happened to my wife a couple years ago here. 4 guys jump out of a car. One of them has a knife. They push her up against the wall. They're pushing her into the wall, and they're saying, give me your money. Give me your money. She's like, so I gave them my money, and then they left. And I was like, well, good job. So part of it is like, yeah, part of it is destigmatizing the fact that it's, it's okay.
It's okay that you were robbed.
Your money. Yeah. You can get a new credit card. You can refill your wallet. It sucks. 100%. I get it. So those kind of conversations, right? Because a lot of the self-defense industry, and we've talked about this quite a bit, is just mythology, bro. Like it's not, you're not fighting some hooded, masked bad guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Give them what and so you go home, right? I mean,
yeah. So these guys are competitive Taekwondo guys. My second, Matt, is a black belt in Taekwondo here, so they know each other through Taekwondo somehow. But the kid in red, he's a multiple level Taekwondo black belt, and he got held up at gunpoint, and they beat him. They held him there at gunpoint, and they beat him up, and took all his stuff. So you're dealing with a different demographic, man. It's very different here than the States, right? There are no good guys with guns.
Yeah, I can't remember. Right, yeah.
So
and we got this one here.
He's a local boxer. He was a lot of fun. I'm not a giant. They're just all tiny. I know it looks like I'm some kind of like 7 foot tall. They're all just 5'2". It just makes me look really big.
Okay, so and folks, if you just catch, and this is all the attendees, right? Kind of.
Yeah, that's the whole crew, right?
Yeah.
And we ran through the first half of the program was all the psychology and de-escalation and trauma sensitive talk and everything that Rich talks about. He calls the shredder the 5 principles of physical retaliation now, because it's changed a lot from the 90s when it was like all of us were doing murder, kill stuff. And then the whole red zone curriculum, we ran the entire red zone curriculum, knife defense, adaptive striking, more because, and this will be an interesting discussion point for me and you, right? I don't know about you, but I have found that like, instead of teaching moves, right? Positional dominance runs the day, right?
That and the whole thing of pre-violence. I mean, I'm not talking about, okay, don't go in the dark alley. I mean, like, are you on somebody's radar? Is somebody intersect? I mean, like, I think the whole aspect of the pre-violence material, I think could be overhauled.
Yeah. So Rich has some
events. That needs to be completely overhauled.
So Rich has some fantastic material on that. Like stuff like, you go out and you pretend you're a criminal, right?
Yeah.
And you pick a victim, right?
Right. I'm thinking about that. Yeah.
We did a long talk about like body language and why people get targeted before we started anything physical. And you go, okay, we're going to go out in the street and you guys are going to pick somebody who you would victimize if you were a criminal. And it does 2 things, right? It gets you give off a completely different vibe when you go on the street as a predator than when you go out in the street as yourself. So I encourage like that girl who was constantly getting mugged, like, play this game every day. Go outside. When you're outside, pretend you're a predator. Pick people out. It will send out a completely different vibe into the universe, and the energy you get back will be completely different. Not to be like woo or anything, but
yeah, that's fascinating.
It teaches them to pay attention to like the slumping and the hood being up and the headphones being on and all the ways you're facing your phone and all these things that criminals pick out, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the drills that we did.
Yeah, I mean, if she got mugged 4 times, man, she's obviously giving something away. I mean,
you meet her and she's the sweetest. She's like my wife. She's like the sweetest person, and it's everything she's doing. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Oh my gosh, you didn't mean to hit you."
Yeah,
so that's why, right? She's putting that sweet little vibe out in the world, and the predators are like,
yeah, real time, right? Yeah. Wow, that's
So like when you started doing knife defense, what did you find was the best position to defend yourself against the grab and stab?
2-on-1.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
and 2-on-1 is right smack in the middle of that overlap, right? That overlap area in the middle. It works for military combatives. It works in sport combatives, MMA. It works, you do basic wrestling, underhooks, overhooks, 2-on-1s. And once you start getting positional dominance, right? Because Jerry, so red zone is pressure, angle, and position, right? And once you have dominance in those 3 areas, then the techniques come easy, right? So when you have something like a 2-on-1, even if it is a blade, once you have that control of that knife arm, the disarm becomes relatively easy, right? It's not easy, but it's not.
No, but so as opposed to trying to get something, or even when something is moving around and no control.
as opposed
I
to
got
like,
getting killed, man.
yeah,
I came from two systems, and those who know my background know what the systems are. I came back to my training partners that were very grappling oriented. Here I am, the quote unquote FMA guy, and I could not stop them killing me. It just was like,
right, because they wrestle and they know how to move bodies, and they move you to a position where you're at a disadvantage, and then they kill you, right?
yeah, it's just, it was very gross. It was very gross, more oriented, and it was not freaking happening. But the moment I went after a knee injury of all things, I couldn't move. I had to. What could I do? And
Right.
then, geez, I'm not getting killed as much. And then I
Well,
refined it, and I was getting killed less and
so
less.
it's funny you should bring up your knee injury, right? So part of the reason that I circled back to Jerry was because at the time my hip, I got my hip replaced, but it was frozen. Like my leg didn't move at all.
Yeah,
And so nothing worked, right? All this footwork stuff and all these things that everybody was teaching, just run away. I can't run. Well, circle out and do tappy tappy for 5 hours.
You got my family with me. Just run away.
Right. So like Jerry's like, nah, bro. 2-on-1. He does a thing called the dive and drive. He would be a great guy to have on.
Who are you talking about? Who?
Jerry Weltsel, the guy who created.
I definitely heard the name. If you got a link to, I definitely would be more than happy to bring him on.
Yeah. So he really emphasizes the 2-on-1, the handcuff grip, making sure the knife is not moving, making sure you have control of the knife before, and then you have control of position, and then you deal with the getting the person on the ground where you can get the knife away and all that good stuff. I'm not going to give away the whole system.
Yeah, sure.
But and I could do it. I could do it injured. I could do it with a frozen leg, right? So then it's like, this works. Like I can ethically say this is a thing, right? Which you're in an ethical gray area, bro. It's a cool idea.
Well, here's the thing. Here's where the ethics come in. In other words, when you're teaching and being against knife, to me, there's an ethical obligation in that you've at least tried this under full pressure, and did it yield some results that were positive that you in turn now can relay and share. But outside of that, like, if you haven't gone through that and you're teaching stuff and saying, to me, yeah, that's unethical. That's extremely unethical.
Well, and you extrapolate that out to all of self-defense, right? I mean,
period.
You have systems. If you're not looking at legality first and whether what is the outcome going to be, and we've talked about that Sayak guy who that was the only system he trained in. He was a bouncer in New York. And something kicked off, and he cored some dude's kidneys out, and he's now in life in prison for murder. But it was the only system he had. It was the only thing he trained in. He had no other base to work from. How do you justify that?
Especially when, and that's the thing too with, like, I'm doing with Piper now, with WPM, Western Piper, like the whole aspect of legality. And I don't want to give us a lot of stuff what I'm doing here, but when we talk off, you'll know. But much of what we're talking about right now, like justification, legally defensible, moral compass, value system. Like, I want my students to be able to sleep at night. You know what I mean?
Sure. And like the importance, this is something we talked about a lot before the physical stuff. Like, you got guys who teach, like, they call it an aggressive fence. Stay there, get back. And what happens? Right? And now you're on camera screaming at some dude.
I know.
Right? And it becomes physical, and your solution
you just escalated
is 400 consecutive hammer fists. Right? you're going to jail, dude. There's no way. And I'd rather
Here's
be
the thing, and that's where Demetrius is really
judged
good.
by 12 than carried by
I
6.
know, I
Yeah.
know.
Talk to me when you're in the shower in prison, buddy. Like, good luck with that one, right? Like,
Like the whole thing. I know the whole thing is like, I tell my students, hey, that's close enough. Hey, something going on? You need something? You need $1? I mean, instead, by like exactly like, and that's no, you're not de-escalating. You're escalating. You know what I mean?
I tell them it's customer service. Hey, bro, are you okay?
That's what I mean. Like, hey,
do you,
something okay?
do
Everything
you
going?
need
Yeah,
something? Is there something I can do for you? Right? Like, be
100%.
nice. It's the whole Roadhouse thing, right? Be nice until it's time not to be nice.
Exactly. I couldn't said it better. There you go. Yep.
And so we're doing role playing and talking people down and we did a lot of role playing surrounding situations that seem like they're bad at first, and then you find out something about the person and it's like, oh, okay. So one of the role plays we did was, okay, you're at a bar sitting down. You turn and bump a guy and spill his drinks and he just like flies off the handle, right? And he's being super combative. And I tell everybody that I train, like, make sure you have a story that would what Rich calls fish for empathy. My dog died today. My girlfriend cheated on me. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. My brain was someplace else, right? Because then you're checking to see if this person is a sociopath or if they're just a good guy having a bad day. If you're a good guy, you come home, you catch your wife in bed with somebody else, your marriage is falling apart, you're losing everything, you go out to the bar, some guy bumps you, you might fly off the handle. But if they turn to you and go, sorry, bro, I wasn't paying attention, my girlfriend was cheating on me, right? Then you're like, whoa, really? Me too, right? And you build a bridge and everything's cool. And you also know if you do that and the person continues to push and you're trying to be cool, now you've determined this person is a sociopath.
Yeah, they're low character, poor character, low character, and yeah, exactly. But no, I love what you're talking about. That's so true. Like, man, it's better than throwing, having to get in a stupid fight over something stupid and lose. Like, here's the thing I tell like my students: nobody's owning my house, my bank account, over something unless they break into here and they are a threat to my family. But I don't care what you call me. I don't care if you give me the finger. I mean, are you gonna lose like your life or stuff over that?
Yeah, and it's also building a story for law enforcement, right? Hey, I told him my dog died. Like, I tried everything. Like,
I had my hands up. I was like being, non-confrontational. Yeah,
Right. And I was non-confrontational right up to the point that I did whatever the minimum amount of force I needed to do. So we talked about preempting with position, right? So maybe you go and you you're not really sure how things are going. It's up and down. You're still kind of determining. And so you sink an underhook, but you do it in the guise of like putting your arm around the person. Hey, bro, like, you're doing it intentionally to take a superior position, right?
Right.
They don't know that. You're being, hey, listen, man, I just want you to know. And you're doing it on their right-hand side to get their hand away from their waist so that they can't access a tool, because 86% of people are right-handed. And you're talking to them, but now you have superior position and pressure. And if it continues to go bad, you work the position, right? Versus.
No, I love it. It's like a lot of that's like the tripwire. I'm cornering. Hey, I mean, but right there, touch, ready to, priming.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the inspiration for a lot of this stuff. That and Rich's psych material, right? Blended with everything else. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, I wish you the best in all this. I hope it. I guess you're like your next event or whatever.
Oh, well, I mean, it depends. If people want to help out, I did share the business model earlier, but like, bring me in for training. we'll discuss some kind of fee for the training. Understand that the training money, other than taking out the cost for travel or whatever, goes into the charity. And then also I will mirror however many hours you hire me to train kids who need to be trained. So you do 10 hours of training with me. I find kids here. I train 10 hours with kids here, and the money goes into charity. That's the goal. We're beating the bushes here to find different homes to strategically partnership with. I'm working with the kids, the street kids here, and in the neighborhood. So there's always a need, right? Even stupid stuff like wraps and boxing gloves
Yeah.
All that stuff costs money, and so far I'm doing it all out of my own pocket. So it would be great, whatever events people want to do, just reach out to me through Facebook and we can make it happen.
Fundraisers? What about fundraisers? Like for instance, like do you have anything that along those lines that we could generate, post, or get something going?
I did a GoFundMe about a year ago, and I did it for like 6 months, and I got $24. And I sent it to everybody that I knew at the time, dude. And so we could maybe you have a much longer reach than me. I'm a relative unknown when it comes to martial arts, right? So I'm just some weird bald guy asking, for help with human trafficking. So you know how that might come off. But yeah, if you want to do a fundraiser.
Yeah, I'm trying to just think out loud here. I just think what you're doing is just such a great thing that I'm trying to think what we do in regards with FMA discussion. No words. Look, I just did. I got a couple ideas. One, running through FMA discussion, where you got a PayPal, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. We could do a fundraiser through FMA discussion. We could also do this though, and I think this will actually go over better. I'll get a couple other people. We could basically do a Zoom online seminar, and all the proceeds can go to you.
Sure. That'd be fantastic, man. I would
really appreciate some like-minded folks that would want to do with me and say, hey, look, man, we're doing this for trafficking. Kids that are getting trafficked down in Ecuador. This is the guy it's going to. I had him on episode 481. Get a little background. So I'm writing this down now.
Yeah, that'd be great, bro.
I think that would be better than a raffle, to be honest with you. Charity seminar 41 band. Yeah, that's I think is gonna do it. So I would just get a couple like-minded guys and just bang it out.
That'd be awesome, bro. I mean, anything, right? Anything. If people want to donate stuff, reach out. That's great too, right? Like we'll take lightly used gi tops, jujitsu gi tops or sticks or, boxing gloves, anything like that is greatly appreciated. Because there's always a need, right? So these kids have one pair of boxing gloves that they share between them. Yeah, it's like a knockoff pair of Everlast, and they pass it like when we're drilling, like one way they take off the next one, and the next
we gotta do something about that, man. John, man, if you want to be involved, let me know. That's my brother there. No, we gotta help. No, we gotta do something about that. You guys just can't be passing one set of gloves around, man. So I'm gonna get a couple of cats together, and we're gonna plan out a seminar.
Cool. And look, I'll get you. We'll get you like some sweatshirts and send them back to the States as a way to say thank you. And it's whatever we can do to say thanks. It would be huge, bro. Any
Oh
help
my
would
God, I
be
don't want you guys spending any money. I can tell you that. And the guys that I get, they're not going to want you to spend any money. So they're going to want you to use all the money for them. So
well, we'll give the sweatshirts to the kids in your name, right?
There you go. Better yet. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
let's do. Hey, listen. So whoever it is, whenever you get it together, do me a favor. Have them send me a signature, like an e-signature, so I can physically print it on the sweatshirt.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can give them a signed sweatshirt from you guys and be like, these guys donated these, and whatever logo for the schools or whatever the guys are who are donating, I'll make sure, because like I got the Piper logo or the Rich Dimitri's logo. I'll put their logos on the sweatshirt too with the signature, so it's like a custom thing specifically from them.
Yeah. No, digging it. No, this would be fun. I love doing stuff like this. I'll get a couple guys, like-minded guys like me, and I'll get like 3 or 4. We'll either do 3 hours. If I get 4 guys, we each go on 45 minutes. If I get 3 guys, we'll each do an hour. I mean, but it's going to happen.
Sweet.
If you're on it, I mean, you could do the 4 themes, John. I mean, that would be awesome. Yeah, definitely. Consider it done. I just got to coordinate with some folks. Just look at upcoming what's going on. I know June is off. I'm like away every month doing something in June, I think, except for the last month in June. So stay in touch. I'm gonna get a team together, and
I appreciate you, bro. I really do.
Oh my God, this is just no. I mean, what you're doing on there I think it's just spectacular, and I love doing stuff like this, charity stuff.
And then, bro, the kids, like people from the United States are like rock stars to the kids. So like,
really,
yeah, like doing something like that would do so much. Like I could say, hey, these are the schools, these are the logos. Give the kids the websites, and then just get on the website and just like geek out over the fact that like martial arts movie stars from the States are helping them. So it would be a really big deal.
Yeah. No, I love doing charitable stuff and using FMA discussion to just pimp it out. Yeah, that's the only time I really will use FMA discussion for stuff like this. You know what I mean? I'll maximize the use out of it. I don't care. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. Let me see here. All right. Yeah. So I got Brent, and I got John. So I already got 2 guys, man, that are willing to do something. So yeah.
Awesome.
But hey, we'll be in touch. Oh, so definitely, when you get settled, when things slow down, reach out to me when you want to get caught back up, because man, you can run Ecuador.
Yeah, just shoot me the I'm ready. I know you said June is busy for you, so really
but not during the week. I'm talking the weekends are busy, but during the week I'm pretty good.
Cool. Then let's just start up we can start this week if you want.
I'll tell you what, hit me on Messenger, what times and days work.
Okay.
What I'm gonna do anytime, I'm gonna send you the Google Doc level 1.
Can I do the new logo in red just so it goes with everything else?
When the new logo.
The new Piper, the American Piper logo. Can I? Because it's black and white. Can I redo it in red? Are you okay with that?
I'm going to put you in touch with Nick. Nick is he made the logo, and he's very particular, who does what. But we're Blade. You could put something red. You could definitely put a red thing in there. Absolutely.
Okay. Sweet.
But I already kind of screwed this up, and Nick got so.
Okay. I don't want to upset anybody.
It was my fault, really. I just was telling guys to do what the hell they want, and Nick was just. I
get it. Yeah. I get it. I'm very OCD, so we're good. I feel you, Nick. I understand. No worries.
Yeah, I'll put you there. So and you can put whatever you want in there. It doesn't have to be Ecuador. You could put your whatever you want in the center. You can make it any color, any font, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'll
Awesome.
put you into Nick, and then I'm going to send you the. Matter of fact, well, I got you on right now. I just want to make sure you got it here. All right. Okay, just bear with me here. Okay, let's see here. Okay. All right. I'm forwarding it to you right now, and this is level 1, so you'll be
Sweet.
good to go with that. You're gonna have everything you need to know on there for wherever you get first student or whatever. Okay, so I just sent you that. I'm gonna create a group message. Matter of fact, I'm gonna add you to the existing message. I'm sorry to right now, and so what it'll be is you're gonna see what he's doing for a couple others. This will make more sense once you see the group message. But basically, I just added you to it. There's a couple other guys in there. You're gonna see. There's the logo. You'll see the logo in there, and then you can just tell them what you want to put in there.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. So
I appreciate you. Thank you
yeah.
for the opportunity.
Oh yeah, anytime. So we'll be in touch though, because yeah, hit me up on the message I just sent you. Just give me some times, like for this week.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, Ben.
Thanks,
Hey, you
man.
take care.
All right.
Bye
Talk
bye.
to you later. See ya.
All right. All right, folks, that wraps up 481. Who is next? This Friday, me, Bill McGrath. Oh, Brian Canada and Brian. I'm not recalling his last name. However, it will be on this Friday, I believe, at 8 o'clock. And that is just going to be kind of a preview to Atlanta seminar with Bill McGrath, myself, Brian Canada, and somebody else. Brian, yeah. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. But at any rate, so that'll be this Friday at 8. So yeah, jump in. It'll be pretty neat. I guess hearing us talking what we're gonna do in there. And but yeah, folks, if you're watching this, you want to be part of this seminar. I'm gonna be planning to help Ben down there and his charity down there, which I think is just phenomenal stuff he's doing. Let me know. Yeah, but it's gonna happen. It's something I'm gonna do. So just let me know if you want to be part of it. All right, guys, I will see you next time.